Hello and welcome to Frank's School. This is 13th year, 8th day, the first video. Now, it's only the 7th day of this series, State of the School 2023, because I intend to squeeze in another video not exactly related to that. Well, you don't need to worry about that. Why a novel, it says. I'm going to talk a good bit here about a novel that I'm writing. It is absolutely part of the school, of Frank's School, in this year 2023 and 2022. Today, all I want to do is explain why that happened. Why did I turn to a novel? Well, there's a story, Thor and the Giant King's Hall. I think about it now and then, because in that story, Thor, this mighty hero, with Mjolnir and all that, he slept a night in the Giant King's Hall. And there he was, according to that story, you could Google it, it's a pretty good story, it's much more than what I'm going to tell. In that night, or that evening in the hall, he was confronted with various tests. One of them was to drink a horn dry, which he failed, because turned out the horn was connected into the ocean. He couldn't have drained it anyway. He had an opportunity to smash the giant's head with his hammer, but he couldn't. All he did was put a dent and wake the giant up, but it turned out he was actually pounding his hammer against a mountain range, and he put a valley in it. I mean, it's quite a story. But I think about it because at one point he was challenged with wrestling an old woman. It was the Giant King's nurse when he was little, I think. Ellie is her name. An old, ugly, frail woman. And Thor could not out-wrestle her. The most that happened was he did go down on one knee at one point, but she didn't put him down, but he could not defeat her. Well, it turns out that what he was wrestling against was old age itself. So in other words, the greatest of heroes, in spite of all the stuff they might do, ultimately they cannot out-wrestle old age. And I think of Shakespeare's words in Henry V, where Henry V describes old age as that ill layer up of beauty. Meaning he knew he was an ugly man, but as he got older and older, he wasn't really going to get more ugly because he was already ugly. Because old age does not do a good job of making something more and more beautiful. Ill layer up, that's like someone laying bricks. Well, I tell you about all this because I came to a point where I realized I was not going to defeat old age. I had been doing everything I could physically to accomplish various things here at Frank's School. But old age was going to catch up to me. My body was going to give out. And so, but what dawned on me was that I could turn to fiction. I could make the story up as if it happened. Even it didn't actually really have to happen. I could tell it as if it happened. It's called fiction. And the result was a novel. I maybe should jump, I should have said this before. One of the things that made me realize this was December 11th, 2020, I very nearly died. I fell, the goats bumped me and I fell and I broke ribs and had to have my spleen taken out. And I very nearly died that night. My vital statistics might have been Frank Antonsen, born February 5th, 1946, died December 11th, 2020. It easily could have been that, but I survived. You know, they thought I would very possibly die on the operating table. After that happened, I wrote an obituary for Frank's School, not for me, but for Frank's School, because l'école c'est moi. I think of Louis the 14th that said, "L'État, c'est moi." The state, it's me. That's real famous. Well, in a sense, l'école, the school, c'est moi. I'm the school. And if I died, well, the school died. And so I thought, who's going to write the obituary? I wrote it in advance. I should probably put that on here as a link. I'll think about that. I also wrote a last will and testament for Frank's school, not for me. There's nothing legal about either one of these, but just to give advice to somebody who tried to make sense out of all the stuff, or help them, really, to help them deal with all the stuff that I'd started. So I did those two things. Well, that was a little over 2 years ago. And a result was that I did turn to fiction. I began to write a novel, which I continue to write, and I'm hoping I'll finish this year. But since I started it over 2 years ago, I figured now's maybe as good a time as any to tell you that it has been going on. I'm going to say a good bit more about the novel itself soon, but I wanted to cover that. Why did it happen? Why did I turn to fiction? And there you have it. Bye for now.